Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley. This is a Staffordshire church. This is the church of St Chad, Pattingham. Now, Pattingham is fairly near Cosford, Albrighton, Shifnal, that sort of area. So it's just by the Shropshire border. And it's got this enormous parish church. It's named for St Chad, dedicated to St Chad, who of course is the founder of what becomes the Diocese of Lichfield, and is a great ecclesiastical leader in the Anglo-Saxon world. Probably he established the church here, and the original church would almost certainly have been wooden, because Anglo-Saxon churches tended to be, well, certainly original ones. A 12th century church was constructed on the site, and part of it can still be seen. It forms the core of the present building. The rest has been extended over the centuries, from the 13th century chancel, then you've got some 14th century work, some 15th century work, and 19th century you've got a restoration, extension. One of the aisles, so the south aisle, the arcade gets replaced. There's an extra north aisle added to the existing north aisle just because they could, and it reaches its present form, including a spire being put on the tower, which you'll see when we go outside. So let's have a look around and see what we can see in this fascinating old building. So as usual, we start at the west end. Now, because this is a church with big aisles, the font is actually over here in the south aisle. It's looks to be maybe 19th, early 20th century, rather arts and crafts type bowl, but very, and of course very nice. Behind it is a very interesting feature. This is a book rest, and it's probably 16th century, and probably from when it was required by law that a Bible of the largest type be put in every church. And the Bible would be chained, not to keep people from reading it, but to make sure that nobody went off with it, which of course would be a temptation. Thou shalt not steal. However, up in the tower we've got here, this is the commandments, and we've got Moses in the middle, flanked by Aaron, and I suspect on the other side Joshua, maybe Hur. You can see here, there's the Norman arches, and you can see beyond there's another aisle, the east end of which has been blocked in to provide a bit of toilets and stuff, and vestries at the back. So still, it's a very broad building, because as you can see it's a very short one, and there's some old pictures here of the church before restoration. You can see that's before it got its spire, and we've got an aisle with fairly plain windows, so the windows have been, well, there now have been inserted, but you can see you've still got the clerestory, and you've got the chancel beyond. It's quite a tall building, because the clerestory has to be above that rather tall aisle, and you can see this arcade here is is Victorian, rather. This one is Norman, and we have here, in loyal commemoration, the 60th year of the happy reign of our most gracious sovereign lady, Queen Victoria the Good. It's 1897. So, commemoration of our second longest reigning monarch. And yes, here we are. You've got your two aisles here. So this is the north aisle. In fact, we'll loop around through the north aisle, having gone up to that point. And here we have, when Adam delved and Eve span, who then was the gentleman? The answer was, of course, Adam, but the clergy conspired to keep that from the people. And there we have Adam and Eve in paradise, with the conveniently positioned greenery, and Adam and Eve leaving paradise, and of course they have sewed fig leaves to form aprons, or I don't know, that those surely should be supposed to be the cloth garments, but there we are. So Adam and Eve looking up the aisle, and here we have the war memorial. I'll make comment on one. You can see, of course, they're mostly privates, mostly ordinary soldiers. There's a couple of sailors on the Second World War. Surgeon Lieutenant Christopher Henry Congreve Dent, who we'll see here in his memorial later on, an ordinary seaman, Maniton Edward Courtney Lord, and First World War, Brigadier General Thomas Andrew White Boycott, because of course even a Brigadier General or Brigadier can be killed in combat. And at the pulpit, of course, that's Victorian. Here we have figures from the Old Testament. You've got Aaron, Moses and Miriam, and then the other one is Gideon, Joshua and Samson. But I won't point out everything because of course I want to encourage people to go and visit this place if you possibly can. Annunciation, and into the chancel. And here, this is 13th century, and here we've got this wonderful reredos, because it's a double lancet, and so you've got a space between where you can put this great big reredos alabaster with a big mosaic of Christ in majesty. Christ the King, thou art the King of glory, O Christ, thou that takest away the sins of the world, have mercy upon us. So that is the reredos, and we turn around and see all the way to the east end, to the west end rather. It isn't a very long way actually, and certainly the nave is very short, and Royal Arms of Queen Anne, our last Stuart monarch, because of course she's the daughter, the younger daughter of James II, and she and her sister helped to conspire to replace their father. So there we are. This is the South Chapel, the Lady Chapel. You see you've got an appropriate reredos and apostles in the window, and piscina there. We've here got Paul with Timothy and Titus, Titus being depicted completely anachronistically as a medieval bishop. Got a lot of memorials, got one here to a little boy who died at the age of 5. There's St Chad's cross in the back of these chairs, and looking west down the aisle, it's quite broad, it's bigger than some parish churches, but some parish churches are very small. And this is the parish chest. It's only 17th century, but it is the parish chest because it's got 3 locks, one for the minister, one for the each of the church wardens. Here we have the Falkland Memorial, and I mentioned before Christopher Henry Congreve Dent, the surgeon lieutenant. He's in the Royal Naval Reserve, Volunteer Reserve, and he was killed in action on HMS Hood, 24th of May 1941. Of course, Hood is trying to prevent the breakout of the German battleship Bismarck, gets into combat with Bismarck. They start trading shells, and Hood, in a, by all accounts, an absolute freak event, is hit by a shell that causes her to explode, killing almost everybody on board. There's just a handful of survivors, and of course Christopher Henry Congreve Dent among them. So there we are looking west. Most of the furnishings, of course, are Victorian, like that pulpit and the screen. So that is the inside here at St Chad's, Pattingham. So here we are outside at St Chad's. Now I've deliberately positioned the camera so you can't see the spire. To do a comparison with that picture inside, you can see here from this angle, yes, there's a new porch, yes, there's new windows, and the roof line has changed, but still the same bits of the building. And so there's a spire. We'll see that when we do the proper outdoor pictures. So we'll have a look around the outside. A beautiful day, and it's 2 o'clock. We'll start here, just trying to get as much into the building as possible. And there we pan up, there's that spire, added in the 19th century. And it is, as spires are supposed to be, the crowning glory, and it means it's an enormous local landmark to be seen for miles. Ignore the sound of the buses behind me. Get a bit closer. You can see the clerestory has been rebuilt in the 19th century when they changed the roof line, but the walls of that aisle are medieval, probably 13th, 14th, probably 14th century. Here we have a churchyard cross, and here we have a sundial. Speaking, of course, of different eras, the churchyard cross is here, but there's only burials really on the south side here. There's very little on the north side. Basically, the north side's up against the wall of the old rectory garden, but that's the churchyard cross, which would be the main memorial here. It might be used by travelling friars preaching. It might not be, depending on what the incumbent thought about travelling friars. But its primary function is as a memorial to the people who were buried here. Medieval churchyards didn't have all these individual memorials. You'd have perhaps a wooden cross that would be left to decay, and then you'd have a shared memorial, everybody with this. You can just see some carving on the top there. I suspect that cross is not medieval, but it's just a bit of rubbish stone. The stone is rather rubbish, as we have seen in previous videos in this area. And so we go round here. This great big spreading yew tree. They're very common in churchyards for a variety of reasons. And through there we have, there's that wonderful 13th century chancel. Very nice bit of 13th century work, and you can see those buttresses, little buttresses. They do have a structural function, but as well as being decorative, and those lancet windows, and then of course inspiring. And there's the east window of the aisle. We'll go round slightly on this side, but as we will see, there's no way round. You just come to the end of the Victorian, basically Victorian vestry here, and that's the old rectory. And there we have doing a bit of work there. There's the spire up there. So that is the outside here at St Chad's, Pattingham. Before we finish, we've got this angel here. Just trying to get him properly in the picture. He comes from the Houses of Parliament, and he was removed during Restoration in the 1930s and given to the local MP, who brought the angel here. So he's a little piece of the Palace of Westminster. And so there you go, St Chad's, Pattingham. It's a lovely building. It's a small, well, it's a big village actually. It's almost the size of a small town, and the church reflects that. It's well worth visiting. As you can see, there's so many more things you could have looked at, but once again, I want to encourage people, if able to visit local churches like this one that have an awful lot of heritage related to them. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.